How's it going? So, this is just to share some thoughts on what I've been contemplating myself over the last few months. I think about 5 months. In an ayahuasca ceremony about 4 or 5 months ago, part of the journey was I was in a different body. I was a different being other than human. The entire night was seen from that perspective, and it was kind of like an inside joke. It's like here I am, this extremely tall, elegant being wearing a human suit, sat in this room full of people pretending I'm a human. It was comical, it was funny. What I really took away from it and during that night was really, who am I? I've since recorded a video, I think it's called Just Be, and that's regarding purpose, that my purpose, or an easy answer to purpose for me, is just to be, is to be present, to be in this human body and have this human experience and be present and emanate my energy, clear myself, heal myself, love myself, raise my own energy. That in effect is my purpose, or part of my purpose, to emanate that energy, my own heart energy. So who am I? This obviously is not just a question for me. It's an ongoing question, and it was a good reminder for me to return to this, and I've thought about it quite a bit over the last few months of really, who am I? There's a guy called David Goggins doing the rounds at the moment. He talks more about his own journey about fitness. It's not really fitness, it's kind of overcoming himself. He's not for the faint of heart. He's pretty hardcore, but I think he has a brilliant message. One thing he says and he talks about is, we often hear double down on your strengths. And Goggins says to double or treble down on our weaknesses. And my own experience with doing that has been quite beneficial. Unknowingly, or before I knew about David Goggins, I've been doing that myself with my shadow work, going to my weaknesses, going to my addictions or my darkness, and exploring that, because it's in that uncomfortable stuff that I find power and that I find growth and pieces of myself, rather than the nice things that I want to present to the world, which is basically just all my ego trying to be liked or trying to be acceptable. Or I worked with someone yesterday and came up towards the end of the session was that I'm realizing how empty I have been, or I'd nearly say I am. It's quite empowering to discover that. If we walk around all day saying, I love myself, I love myself, I am wealthy, I am happy, I am all this kind of affirmations, that doesn't really wash with me. It's not really my thing. But if it works for you, go do it and see where it takes you. I don't have a problem with that. But I've known for me, affirmations have not really been my thing. I want to go where the emptiness is, and I want to replace that emptiness with my own love and my own enough. That I am enough. I am God. I am God consciousness. I am worthy. I feel that just on the surface, superficially saying affirmations doesn't actually go into that emptiness, that void. What I'm beginning to realize is that, we're like a huge container, a big drum. Down the bottom, there's like an inch of self-worth. Ultimately, I can only speak for myself, but I see it in others too. Now, if we are God consciousness, if we are that capable and powerful and unlimited, what are we doing with this little sliver, this little layer down the bottom? I feel we have designed this game and this challenge, this experience, to create a world for ourselves that keeps us at this little sliver. So they, whoever they are, the lizards, the elite, the Rothschilds, the politicians, the teachers, whoever you want to call them. I'm putting teachers in the same sentence as reptilians and politicians, rightly so. So if this society is kind of telling us, you just evolved from muck, there's no God, or there's no higher consciousness, there's no other world, or you come and go and it's all over. Or if they, marketing, consumerism, keeping us at that base, lower sexual vibration. We've designed this It's not up to them to raise us up. It's up to us to raise ourselves up. It's up to us to go digging within ourselves and find that emptiness, find that container, that empty container, and wonder why, like what's replacing that self-worth. I have a marble analogy, which is, it's kind of like two glasses. One is full of marbles and the other is empty. But it's not really. Both are always full of something. So you can have your spirit, your self-worth and self-esteem as marbles, or ego. So where there are no marbles, ego will take the place. And I feel for myself that all of my life has been with a couple of marbles down the bottom and the rest is just ego. Because we have to survive. I have to survive. So ego steps in there, and it that defensiveness, that aggression, that fight, just to kind of keep me going, to be able to get on in the world, stay alive, function to some degree. So now with a bit more awareness that there is that huge void, to gradually enter into that emptiness, that loneliness, that lack of love, rejection, pain, whatever you want to call it, and sadness, wherever it might come up, and you just feel it and go, oh, Jesus Christ. To explore that and to replace that with the marbles and with the self-love. But it's not to kick out the ego and go, no, I am love, I am wonderful, I'm fantastic. It's actually to embrace the emptiness and the sadness and the pain and the rejection, because that's a piece of me too. So I don't want to labour that point. I've talked an awful lot in the past about it. So my point is, what I learned over the last few months was, as my life broke down or changed, over the last 10 or so years, and my relationship ended and money dried up and work dried up and all the rest of it, and I ended up living in my car, I had no identity, especially for males, but I think it's for all of us as well. I was seeking an identity. We can invest, males especially, in status, in money or career, cars or success or any of that kind of stuff. There's nothing wrong with any of that, but for my being, I was so empty that would have become my identity. And I don't mean that I would have been driving around flashing money or flashing my career or whatever. I don't mean that. I might have said none of that to anyone, but within me, I would have felt that I have succeeded, or I am succeeding, I am worthwhile. And the reality is that without any of these things, I am enough. I am God consciousness. No matter what I do or what quality or standard of type of life I have, that I am enough. So my journey has been to, and continues to be, to embrace that emptiness and embrace all of me and realize my Godhead, or my God consciousness, my divine masculine, regardless of status or money or any of these things. Now, the reason I'm making this recording is that after that ayahuasca ceremony, in the weeks after it, I began to realize that over the 10 years and the kind of deconstruction, I had no identity. And then I had my journeys, and I won't go into that story now, I've talked about it before, of, energy healing, or working with women, or women being sent to me or being guided to me, and working to help to balance their masculine and feminine energy. So what I realized was that without knowing, that began to become my identity. So be it energy healer, or I don't know, spiritual guide, or there are terms that I don't want to use that are loaded terms, but my ego would have attached to them in a way really without my own awareness or conscious awareness. It took me a while to realize. And then in the weeks after that, I had to step back from them and realize, no, I that's one piece of the 1,000 or 100,000 piece jigsaw. That's not my identity either. Who am I now? I don't really know. I work with women. That's one small piece of my identity. But I'm a vast being that I really don't know much at all about. I know snippets. And, I often hear from people who want to know about their past lives. And I know a bit about some of my past lives. It's all very similar stuff through life after life. And it's very dark and satanic and abusive. If we've been here maybe hundreds, maybe thousands, maybe tens of thousands of lifetimes, if we've been beings forever, the issue with knowing about a past life or a few past lives is that it's almost meaningless. If we can step back and see the trajectory of those lives, of what we're learning over them, that can be helpful. But if we attach to I was a king or I was a murderer, it's kind of pointless, because it's a tiny piece of a huge experience and huge picture. The ego can tend to attach to it. So I attached to energy healer, queen maker, or some of these terms that I was told. I was told light worker in an ayahuasca ceremony from the medicine from Mother Ayahuasca. I don't think I'd ever heard the term light worker before. It didn't really mean anything to me. I'm happy to do this work, but I feel it's important for me to not attach to any of these labels. It's just been interesting to see how my ego wants to be something. Be it so I can say to people, I am this is what I do. Or even that somewhere deep within me, I think that I know who I am, when really I don't. And it feels right for me at the moment to not attach to these. I can still do this work, and it's a part of who I am. It's a piece of work that I do. But to allow that expansion, allow space to not know, to see what comes up. We are such empty beings that we attach to our degree, or I'm a doctor, I'm an architect, I'm a scientist, I'm an energy healer, I'm a light worker. Ooh, that shot of self-worth. Whereas, the guy on the street with a needle in his arm, he is as enough as the light worker or the architect or the brain surgeon or the Christ. He is God consciousness too. We all are. So ultimately I feel it's about each of us perhaps to consider letting go of these labels. We dress ourselves up with all this shit to try and feel like something. We've a new phone, a new pair of shoes, we got labels, we bought a house in the right area, we've got a new car. What brand is it? It's this brand. All these little things just to feel a little bit more worthwhile. I work with people, I'm a healer, I help people, therefore I'm worthwhile. And it's not necessarily that we're saying this to others. It's just that within ourselves we kind of think, because I do this, I'm purposeful or I'm worthwhile. So part of my journey is going into that fucking darkness. I want to go under the brand. I want to go under the car or the paycheck or the house in the nice area, or the lack of money, or the lack of a house, or the lack of a partner, or the lack of clean clothes, the lack of a meal, the lack of friendship. And I want to see how I am underneath all of these things. Am I enough underneath all those? And if not, why not? What pain is there? What isolation is there that's aching, that wants to be filled up with the car or the shoes or junk, all that transient, external stuff? I seek to be in a place where I don't need my self-worth inflated by the beautiful woman or the paycheck or fame or any of that external stuff. So that if they come into my life, that I can appreciate them and enjoy them without having to take from them or without needing them. That I can give, I can be open, I can enjoy the transience of the paycheck, of the money, of the lovely meal, and move on. It's not my identity. It's not my status. It's not who I am. It's an experience I'm having. And to be free and feel enough in the transience of abundance or lack. Anyway, all my videos are getting longer, and I'm trying to get them as short as possible. So if you lasted this long, thanks for listening. I'll leave a link to my newsletter below. If this resonated with you, please give it a thumbs up and maybe share it with someone that you think it might resonate with too. But thank you for hearing me.